What's up guys, Carmine here, back again, once again, for another House of the Dragon video, this time for the mid-season review. If you're confused by that statement, then it's understandable considering that we normally get 10 episodes a season, but this time things have become a little dire over at HBO. Normally they're at the forefront of must-see TV, but in the past few years, they've been slacking a little, and as a result, they don't have that many great shows to put out year after year anymore. As of right now, Euphoria and House of the Dragon are their only winners, so it doesn't surprise me that they decided to cut down on the episodes in order to extend the series a few more seasons. We'll see how well that pans out. But, of course, House of Late Dragoon, 4 episodes in, how does it compare to Season 1, and does it live up to the legacy of Game of Thrones? Or at least the first few seasons of Game of Thrones. Let's have that discussion. And as always, before we start, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to appease the algorithm gods of YouTube. It helps out a lot. And shout out to these beautiful bastards for that Jon Snow Season 5 reference. You guys are great. But for now, let's get into it. So, first things first, is Season 2 an upgrade from Season 1? Yes, actually, in many ways. I don't want to say it's because we have more dragon fights. This franchise has never been about the dragon and sword fighting, but it doesn't hurt to pepper them in every now and then. Now, in terms of character and world building, it's much better. Very Game of Thrones-ish, at least for character interactions. The world building is still getting up there, but if we're comparing it to Season 1, then everything has been a massive step up. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. It feels as though they either got brand new writers for this season, or the ones from last season read everyone's complaints about Season 1 and decided to fix some things, and, well, here we are for Season 2. One of my major issues with Season 1 is that they were supposed to set up each side as somewhat sympathetic to have redeeming qualities, or at least a character or two you can root for, but it was quite clear Rhaenyra's side was the favorite from the writers. This season, however, started off by giving us a different look at Aegon and even Aemon. Last season, these two were absolute garbage people, but this time around you kind of feel for them a little. Last season, Otto Hightower was an opportunist a-hole, and this season he's still an a-hole, but Rhys Ifans' performance made you respect the hell out of him. Otto went from being Diet Coke Tywin Lannister to being Otto Hightower. Kristen Cole is as frustrating as ever, but even he, especially in the last 2 episodes, had some really good moments that made you want to see more. Over on the other side, Rhaenys, whose entire purpose last season was to be that one person with one-liners they can use to throw around in the trailers and didn't have enough to do. This time around, she has even less material, yet it's written so well, just enough for her to be one of the best characters in the show. And then we have Episode 2. I said it in my review then, and I'll say it here. Episode 2 is one of the best episodes we ever gotten in the entire franchise, both House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, simply because of the character interactions and how everyone brought their A-game. Game of Thrones' best moments were always when 2 characters were together, alone, in a room, talking to each other, and just being real. Season 2, Episode 2, had that and then some. It was great. If anything, Season 2 has definitely made you like these characters even more, or make you love to hate these characters more than you did before, and that is a good thing. As awful as Joffrey was, the fact that you love to hate him is the point. It's making you feel something, and in that moment, the show is doing its job. But the characters have definitely been improved, so have the dragons and the world building. Getting to go to all these new locations, meeting all these new characters, and getting to see all the different sides of the conflict is what the franchise always did well, and it's what I'm enjoying the most about Season 2. Definitely a step up from last time. But what's not a step up is the random moments where the writers feel like they need to insert random crap just because. And on that note, we gotta talk about the Blood and Sheet stuff and the Rhaenyra-Alicent meeting. First off, I wasn't a fan of it. It could have been done better, we all agree on that. But it is what it is. Going from that point of view removes a lot of what made them terrifying from the books, which is them being assassins who slip by security to commit a horrific crime. Them stumbling and bumbling their way into that situation during Episode 1 removed a lot of the impact you had in the books. Imagine, if you will, if you saw the planning of the Red Wedding from the Freys' perspective. The Freys, from Game of Thrones, who were shown multiple times to be inbred hillbilly levels of incompetent, and then it shows them bickering over minor details that don't matter, like which pie to serve, which song to play, and so forth. It lessens the impact of how horrifying the Red Wedding was when you see the behind-the-scenes moments of it. They were idiots who lucked out. As for Rhaenyra and Alicent here, it was just unnecessary. It's the writers wanting to give the characters and the actresses more to do just beyond sitting at home base bickering with their advisors. It was unnecessary due to the fact that they will also meet each other again in the future and could have had the same conversation then with the same impact. Alicent specifically has been the one person that's been gutted from last season. Every time she was on screen last time, they give her something to do and it felt purposeful. But this time around, when she's not screwing around with Cole, she's being awful to her children or just looking out for ways to absolve herself of guilt. Of all the scenes they make up for the characters, giving Alicent somewhat of a redeeming moment seems to be off the table for the writers. If anything, her interactions with other characters serve them more than it does her. But all that aside, Season 2, so far, I'm actually enjoying the hell out of it. It has some of the weird moments here and there, sure, but almost every complaint I had about Season 1 has been fixed with the exception of those weird, nonsensical moments they throw in at the end, and the filming scenes during the nighttime. They can't seem to get that right for some reason, but characters have been elevated and given more defining moments and interactions. We're also introducing new people into the mix who are interesting as our main cast is, and the fact that we're going all over Westeros also really helps bring this thing together as a worthy successor to Game of Thrones. Of course, those are my thoughts, and over in the community tab, I asked you guys what you thought, and out of 5,000 plus votes, 75% of you think the season is great so far. 19% of you are lukewarm on it, and 6% thinks it's not that good. By the way, real quick, if you're confused about that last option, I can explain that. During the Season 1 premiere, someone commented that it's the prequel nobody asked for, and ever since then I've been harping on that guy for his ridiculous comment. But of course, I also asked you guys to leave your thoughts down below on what you think of the season so far, and, well, let's dive into that now. I gotta start off with Emilian here, who has possibly one of my favorite comments of the whole thing, which is, Hot D is the party you didn't want to go to, that your friends dragged you to go against your will, and then you ended up having a great time. Honestly, I couldn't agree more with this. Season 1 wasn't on my top 5 shows of 2022, but if Season 2 continues on the way it has, with more bangers like Episode 2, then I'm more than willing to put it on my top 5 for 2024. Celise and Crazyman here, both praising episodes 2 and 4, but the latter wanted to go one step further in saying that what we've gotten so far was better than anything we had in Season 5 onwards, and with that I have to strongly disagree. There's this weird idea in the fandom that Season 5 wasn't that great, and I'd argue otherwise, because I was covering Season 5 as it was coming out, and I was also very in tune with what the community was saying about it, and you guys were quite enjoying it. I understand that the last few seasons sucked, but that doesn't mean that everything after a certain point has to suck. Yes, it had some dumb moments like the Sand Snake stuff, and even the Ramsay brutalizing Sansa was a little silly and ridiculous, considering Littlefinger set that whole thing up, and how did he not know about Ramsay being whatever. Regardless, there just was a lot of really good moments in Season 5 there that were just as good, if not better, than what we got here in Season 2 of House of the Dragon, so I strongly disagree with that. Next comment here is from a guy whose name I won't even try to pronounce. They managed to convey that war is now out of anyone's hands. It seems inevitable at this point. By the way, this is similar to how Paul in Dune foresees the Jihad, and him, even as Emperor, unable to prevent it. They clearly set things up with Otto gone from power, no one listening to Aegon, although he is king, Alicent flat out saying that she is powerless, and of course the Blackwood-Bracken feud using the Black-Green conflict for their own ends. The only one possibly preventing war is Rhaenyra. That is why the goofy Septine of Baelor scene exists, I think. It made it clear that she also won't stop the war, but actually could. But after all that's happened, she refused to stand down. I also really like how the dragon fights were so tragic. No epic fantasy battle, but just quick and dirty and sad kills. You know what, I agree with you a lot on the dragon fights and how tragic they were. As someone who loves animals more than people sometimes, I hate hearing them cry out in pain, especially when Meleys was being suffocated by Vhagar, and the collateral damage from all of that was just insane. Very well done. I also like how you're comparing the war being inevitable to how Paul envisions the Jihad from Dune, powerless to stop it. As for Rhaenyra, yeah, that's a good way to look at it, but I still feel as though it'd be more tragic for them both to realize the mistake after they meet up again later on, which, at that point, you'd have to wonder, had they had that conversation before, would it have mattered? It removes the what-if scenario and outright answers the question that shouldn't be answered just yet. That guy says, I appreciate that they took their time building up to the war rather than diving straight into it at the beginning of Season 2, and I agree with you. When we read the early reviews a few weeks back about how the writers are making it clear that war takes time to build upon and troops need to muster and march, it sounded like it'd be a slog, but no, it's actually worked out quite well, and it does definitely feel more realistic. In Thrones, we had that one scene in the north with Robb calling the banners, but I feel as though we should have had more of it with Tywin and at least some of the River Lords. But then again, I'm one of those people who love the logistics of it all, and that might be too boring for some people, so I think they found a good middle ground. And last we have here from friend of the channel, Jill the Real, who says, at first I was very skeptical because of that Game of Thrones finale and after their announcement for the actors. I imagined them as depicted in the world of Ice and Fire. But the cast is incredible and they did an extraordinary job of implementing the different stories and rumors told in Fire and Blood. Seeing all of this come to life is so heartbreaking, but this is what I needed. Probably what we all needed. I kind of agree with that, especially about the rumors put forth by all the people who had conflicting details about some of the events. For those of you who who don't know, in the source material, Fire and Blood, several characters chime in on what they believe or claim to have seen go down, and House of the Dragon finds a way to include most of those rumors and claims in there in some shape or form, like Laenor's death, for example. One source claimed that Laenor and his lover were having a big argument before it got deadly, while another person claimed that Laenor's lover killed him on orders from Daemon Targaryen. Technically, both were true in the show. But guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please leave your thoughts down below on what you think of the season so far. Did you agree with anyone's comments that I featured in the video, or disagree with them? Let me know down below. And be sure to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps out a lot. But as always, I'll see you next time. Have a good one.